Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cosmic Castaway podcast. I'm your host, Steve Gedzik. Now, in this episode, I wanted to do something a little different. I was thinking about the possibility of doing um, sort of a interview style episode in the coming months, but since I don't have anyone I can interview at the moment, um, I do have some people in mind that I could interview, but at this exact moment, I don't have anything locked in. So I thought I would start with myself, since I am someone who has had experiences with extraordinary events, and hopefully this will be the first of many. And anyway, I'll just start it off. I'll just tell you. Since I've already introduced myself, I'll tell you what happened, and you can decide for yourself what you think and if you accept it as truth or not. It's obviously that's up to you. Um, so again, I'm Steve Gedzik. I'm the host of the show, and um, I I guess the time period would be back in time period would be back in it was 2014, 2015, somewhere around there, somewhere in between the summer of 2014, the summer of 2015. I can't pinpoint the exact month or day or anything, but it was between those two points in time. I was living in northern Chicago, and I was renting a room within a house. Um, and I was on the top floor. There were three floors. I rented with three other guys. Um, and I was in the top. I was in like the attic space that had been converted into like a one bedroom, one bathroom with some like um, sort of like living room space to the side that we all shared. My room had a sliding glass door. It wasn't very big. My bedroom, I mean, wasn't very big. Uh, my bed, my full size bed, took up most of the space, but I had enough room for a TV, like a 50-inch TV in the corner to the right. I had a computer desk to the corner to the left. Again, from the I'm sorry, from the point of view of sitting on my bed, I had a 50-inch flat screen TV in the corner in the right, and I had a computer desk over on the left, and I had a nightstand over to my right. And then also to my right, there was a sliding glass door that would take you out to a balcony with a set of stairs that would go down each floor and finally down to the ground, which would take you to the garage, a two car garage. And then right outside my window also was the CTA, specifically the Brown Line. And you know, during the day it would go by a lot. It's pretty noisy, even though I wasn't there during the day. But like on weekends and at nights, it was kind of loud. But I was, didn't really stop me from sleeping. But anyway, so what happened was the this one night, um, I was home. It was um, I remember it wasn't wintertime. It was either spring or fall. It wasn't summer because it wasn't hot out, but it was either spring or fall. And I remember I can't remember about what exactly, but I was very upset. I was very depressed about something. Um, I was just really, really upset. I was kind of having a panic attack. No, well, maybe not a panic attack, but I was just panicky, and I was just really, really upset about something that was going on in my personal life. Um, I did I wasn't on any drugs. I didn't do drugs, and I don't do drugs. Never have. Um, I don't smoke. I wasn't drinking. My partying days of my days of going out and partying, my friend. I mean, those days were pretty much long over. I seldomly drink, and I personally haven't. I can't remember the last time I've actually personally had a drink. It's been that long. It's been years. Um, I've never had it. I never had it to say the least. I've never had an issue with substance abuse. I just don't. It's just not my personality. But I just want to, for the record, just to be accurate. I no drugs, no alcohol, not even no smoking, no nothing. And it was just emotional distress. And I was up kind of late because again, it's hard to sleep when you're really upset. Um, and I was just lying there in bed. and I was just thinking, my mind was racing because I was, again, just really upset about something. I don't remember exactly what it was. Again, this is 10 years ago at this point. I wish I could remember what I it probably had something to do with work. Or something something about work, or something else in my personal life. Maybe a relationship or something. I don't remember. But anyway, what's important is that I was under a lot of emotional distress. Eventually, I fell asleep. I don't know how, but eventually I just sort of clunked out, um, which at that time was a little unusual. I usually didn't fall asleep that easily. It usually took me a while to fall asleep. But I don't even remember falling asleep. I was just like, the next day, I remember thinking, like, I don't remember falling asleep. I didn't think I was going to sleep. To be honest, I didn't think I was going to sleep at all that night because I was so upset. I thought I was going to be lying there in distress all night. But at some point, I clunked out, and then very strange happened, and I'll never forget this. And um, I'm sharing it because I personally don't believe it was. I know I'm 99.9% sure it was not a dream, and it was not some kind of delusion, like delusion or hallucination. Because again, I wasn't on anything. I didn't take anything. I was not on any kind of substance. I had some soda. I probably had like a Dr Pepper or something, but that's it. I know I didn't really eat anything because when I get really distressed, I can't eat. It kills my appetite. So I know I didn't really eat much. I probably had a soda, maybe half a soda or something like that. So eventually, at some point, I clunked out, and then the next thing I remember is hearing this sound. With my eyes were closed. It was all dark, um, and I heard this which is almost like a reverse suction sound. It sounds actually a lot like what the sound effect you hear in my intro, like the animation that's in my intro. It sounds a lot like there's a part of it that sounds just like it. I remember hearing that sound, and then for whatever reason, I opened my eyes slowly, and I was looking at my room, but everything. It was like being under um the closest thing I could describe. I don't know what was wrong with me, but it was like it reminded me I was under some kind of influence, like, or trance or something. Um uh the closest thing I can describe it to is when I was little and I went to the dentist. I had a lot of dental work done when I was little. I didn't do a good job of brushing my teeth as little, so I had a lot of teeth pulled, from my mouth when I was, you know, um, 9, 10, 11 years old. Um, and I remember the times when they put the gas mask on and they knock you out before they start ripping your teeth out. I remember there were moments during that surgery where my eyes would open, but I was still under the gas. Like, I could see them, like, operating on me and looking at me and operating at me, but I couldn't react. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I just sort of just watched, and then my eyes would close again, and then I would go back under. But there was always like one moment when I would open my eyes just a little bit, and I didn't really feel anything. Everything, the sounds of what they were doing sounded really far away, but they're right there. I mean, they're right in my face. They're reaching in my mouth, but it sounds far away. And again, you can't really do anything. You can't move. You don't really even think either. You're just watching. You're just observing. Anyway, it reminded me a lot it reminded me of that. Except I could just barely move my head, but everything was kind of um, I couldn't move my body. Except for, again, I seemed to only be able to, like, turn my head very slowly, but I couldn't move my body, and everything was sort of like in a, like a, like you're on, like you're, again, like you're under the influence of something, but I don't know what it was. But I was looking at my room. I know it wasn't a dream because I was looking at my room. Everything was exactly as my room was. And I was looking from the point of view of where I was laying down. I've never had a dream before where I was dreaming about lying in my bed looking at my room. I've never, to my knowledge, I've never dreamt had dreams like that before. I mean, not that I can recall. I don't ever remember once having a dream like that. Um, but I was lying in my bed looking at my room. But the first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was I was looking out. My head was turned this way towards the sliding glass door, and I remember the instant my eyes focused. It took a second or two for them to focus, but the second my eyes focused, there was this dead tree that was high enough that I could see it from the third floor. Like it was, there was just dead branches, just kind of like reaching up to the sky. But um, which eventually got chopped down. Like right before I moved out, the city came out and just chopped it down. Um, but it was still there, and right above it was like it looked like like a it looks similar to like what a commercial airplane would look like when it's approaching when it's coming in for landing and it's approaching like it's coming towards like your house, not like at your house, but it's coming in your direction and the landing lights are on and it kind of gets brighter. It looked That's the closest I can describe it to. Um, it just looked like like a planet like Jupiter or just like a plane coming in with the landing lights on. But the weird thing is that this the very weird thing is that the second my eyes focused, I mean, it was almost like whatever it was, it knew I was looking at it, or that I could see it, because the instant my eyes focused on it, I mean, there was not even it was barely a fraction of a second of time when I could see it. I just long enough that I knew it was there. It's like streaked straight up in the air. It just went and just shot. I remember the streak going up. It was just it just went straight up, and it streaked up as if it went at a very high rate. It didn't disappear. It just shot straight up at an incredibly fast speed that it looked just like a line, it just blurred up. Anyway, um, my head was tilted this way, looking out the window. I saw that first, and then and then I just slowly, again, it was very difficult, but I just slowly, I don't all I remember, I couldn't move, I couldn't even feel my hands, I couldn't feel my feet. All I could do for and I don't even know why I did this. I turned my head like this, and I remember feeling, because my hair was a lot longer. I used to grow it out longer. I could feel my hair moving underneath my head between the pillow and my skin. I can feel it because again it was longer and it was moving as I was turning. I could feel it tickling in the back, just barely feel it tickling the back of my neck. So I turned like this to look the other way, to look at, and I remember as I'm turning, I could barely, again, everything was very warped and it was difficult to get a fix on anything, but I know I wasn't dreaming. I was looking at my room, but I was under some kind of influence. And I remember my TV was exactly where it was supposed to be. My desk was exactly where it was supposed to be. And I remember the skylights were there because because I'm like this. I'm not like sitting up. I'm lying down like this. As I turn my head, I can see the bottom of the skylights right above me. There were two of them, and I turned my head all the way over, and I saw it right next to my bed. I saw it. I saw a a black silhouette of some kind of humanoid. I don't know who or what it was. Um, I can't tell you. I mean, there was no detail. No detail. It was just in the darkness. I could see a dark figure, again, like two arms, a head, and two legs. I could see it standing right next to my bed, looking down at me. Well, I mean, I couldn't see it looking at me, but I presume it was looking at me because it was standing right next to my bed. And you know, I as regrettably, I didn't react the way I wish I had, and unfortunately, I panicked, as one does when they see someone standing over their bed looking at them while they're sleeping. Um, I panicked and I started to go, like I was gonna, like I was gonna try and I don't think I would have been able to, but I was going to try and scream and hope that my roommates hear me. I just kind of looked over and I couldn't. It wasn't. I didn't. I probably didn't get that much out again because I was on whatever I was under. It was very thick. It was very very heavy. It felt like a really heavy blanket over you. Like a 75-pound blanket, like just all over your body. You're just you know you can't do much. Um, but I remember starting to go. I remember starting to panic, and I was gonna try and scream, and at the exact second I was about to try and make a noise, I mean, the exact moment, whatever it was, it extended its arm out and its hand was right over my mouth. It went right over my mouth like this. So I'm lying there. I turn my head. I go, and then I didn't even see that. Now the thing is I didn't. It moves so fast. I didn't even see it. You know, um, I didn't see it extend its arm out like this. It just was like it went from this position to this position faster than you can blink. I mean, just it instantly just was like its hand was instantly. I didn't see movement. It was that fast. I didn't see it move towards me at all. At all. I just remember the last thing I saw was an arm. Was it reaching out over me like this, and its hand, I assume it was a hand, was right over my mouth. And then it was like in the next split second, right after that was the last thing I saw. Next split second, it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. It was a perfect day, blue sky, birds are chirping, people outside walking, chattering. You can hear them walking by on the sidewalk. I can hear the CTA rushing by. I hear planes, from the airport because the airport wasn't too far from where I lived. Um, I heard cars driving by. I didn't hear anyone in my house. I usually didn't, unless they were having a party or something. I usually didn't hear because I was so high up stairs. But um, yeah, it was just that fast. It just from here about to scream, and then this. It wasn't like I closed my eyes and then woke back. It was just my eyes were open the whole time. I didn't close my eyes. It wasn't like it. Sorry, let me explain that again. It wasn't like it what didn't happen was it didn't put its hand over my mouth. It didn't put its hand over my mouth, and then, like, my eyes closed, and then they opened back up. It put its hand over my mouth, and with my eyes still open, it just suddenly it was morning. My eyes did not shut. I mean, I don't think they did. I again, my eyes were open, and all of a sudden, it was just morning. It just was suddenly like it's like it's like hours and hours of my life were just suddenly erased from either hours and hours of time were just erased from my brain, or I don't know. I don't I don't know what could do that or how to explain it. I have no explanation for you what specifically happened. All I can tell you is that there was someone in my room standing right over my bed, and it was all I could see was black, a black figure, and it was dark. It was dark, but the light from from the outside from being in the city was illuminating my room enough that it illuminates my room enough that you can still see the bed, particularly when your eyes adjust to the darkness. I can see my bed. I can see most things in my room. There's enough light coming from the street lights outside that you can, even being that high up, I could still see most things in my room. Well, again, once my eyes adjust. But whatever this was, I saw no detail. It was just like many other people have described, like these shadow. It's like one of those shadow people that people claim they see watching them at night. And by the way, this is not the first time I've seen this, but I'll save that for another time. Um, that was much less dramatic, but um, in this case, someone was standing right next to my bed. I was under some kind of influence. Again, I heard a sound. I opened my eyes. I was turned and looking out the window, and then I I saw what looked like a either a planet, like the planet Jupiter, or like a again it was just a bright light in the sky that looked reminded me of like looking at Jupiter or a commercial airplane coming in for a landing with the landing lights on. But again, the instant my eyes fixated on it, the instant I didn't. I barely saw it. It was so. The event happened so fast. I barely saw it. But it was just enough that I saw it just long enough that I knew it was there. But it was just. It disappeared so fast and it shot straight up in the air. It was just it's light and it went phew, and just shot as soon as the instant, the nanosecond my eyes fixed on it. It's like it knew I was looking at it somehow, and it reacted and shot straight up. And then I just turned my head very slowly, looked the other way, and this black figure was standing right next to my bed. And unfortunately, I reacted. I really wish I hadn't reacted this way, but I did. And um, I panicked, unfortunately, and I started to gasp, like, and I was gonna try, even though I don't think I would have been successful, even if whoever that was, like, let me try. I don't think I would have been able to make any noise, but I certainly was about to try. And then it went from perfectly still, looking down at me, to a hand over my mouth, its arm being extended in its hand. I mean, it was just like like lightning fast. And again, it was so fast I didn't even see it move. It was just its hand was just suddenly there, and then again with my eyes still open, suddenly it was daylight. Like it just it's like it just the dark. It's like again like it's kind of like when you record something, like I don't know, it's like if you record video to the younger people, you may not understand this, but back in the day we used to record on VHS tapes, and we record like a show, and then you'd hit pause for commercials, and then you'd hit record again when the show would, or the movie would come back from commercial. And so what you would see is, the a scene would end, and then it would say we'll be right back after these commercials. You would hit pause, and then it would go right back to the movie. It was like that. Like that there was this there was at least a couple of minutes worth of commercials, but it just goes from the end of the scene to the next scene, as if those commercials never happened. But in fact, that time did happen. Something did occur there. But again, it's not recorded. It wasn't recorded on the tape. That's kind of that's the best analogy I can come up with. It was like it's like I was recording, and then someone turned off the recording in my brain for many hours, and then turned it back on, and then suddenly my room it was morning. It was just suddenly morning, and the sunshine, the sounds, everything. It was it was absolutely strange. It was absolutely bizarre. And then the last thing I want to add, and this um I can't prove that this is connected, but um it's something that has happened. I don't remember this ever happening before, and it seemed really odd that it happened around the time that this happened. Shortly after, maybe a day or two after that incident, I remember under my left armpit, which was the side that this thing was standing on, under my left armpit. Um, and again, this could have been from anything. This could have been a bug bite. I'm not saying it's connected. It's just this is something that very rarely have I ever seen in my life. In fact, I don't know that something like this has ever happened before. I can't. It's possible that it has, and I don't remember. But I tried really hard to think of a time when this happened before, and I can't think of one. But in my left, like not right in the armpit, but just slightly lower below it, there was this weird. It looked like it was like a red sore spot, at first blush, it almost looked like a like a nodule, I want to say almost like a small little a tiny little cluster of like pimples, like pimples, like like with whiteheads, but it wasn't. Um, I'm just saying it reminded me of that, but that's not what it was. Um, I normally don't get that kind of thing. I usually have very clear. I'm a very hygienic person. I take very good care of my skin, and I don't that sort of thing doesn't happen, especially in my armpits. I never had acne in my armpits ever, but it reminded me of that. But I looked up on the internet, for some reason. I just decided to look this up. I looked up pictures of people who have had like burns from like ionizing radiation, and they had these little bubbles, like these little the spots. Not all of it, but some of them similar, looked very like suspiciously similar to what I had in my arm. I'm not saying that's what it was. I don't know. Okay. I wish I had it checked out. God, I wish I'd gone to a doctor and had it checked out, but it disappeared very quickly. But it appeared. I noticed it shortly after that incident, and um, again, it was sore. It was sensitive. It hurt when I touched it. Um, and again, it wasn't any kind of just typical skin disorder like acne, because again, I don't get acne there. Um, it could have been some kind of bug bite. I'll admit that, but I don't know why it would be just there. I would think that it would be more. If there was a bug in my bed, I would think it would have bitten me more than one spot. But it could have been. But like I said, it didn't look like a bug bite either. It looked like more. When I looked up, for some reason, I just decided to look up what radiation burn, like minor radiation burns, look like, and it looked a lot like that. And then it was gone a few days. A few days later, it was just gone. Um, and so I've thought about it on and off for many years. For the past 10 years, I've thought about it, and it's still with me. And I still regret the one thing that I regret the most is the way I reacted. I wish very much that I had kept my cool and I had not panicked, because I believe that whoever or whatever that was, um, if in fact it was that event was real, which I 100% believe it was real. I was looking at something. I witnessed an event that actually occurred. I strongly believe that for whatever reason, something or someone was there to tell me something. Like they appeared to tell me something, you know? And again, like I said, I was in a lot of emotional distress that night. And if you want to try and explain it away as just due to emotional stress, you're welcome to do that. I'm not going to say no, because I have to concede, like, that is a possibility technically, but I've had emotional distress. I've been in much more emotional distressful situations throughout my youth, and I've never experienced anything like that before. Never, 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 ever once. Um, and so um, I wish I hadn't reacted that way, because I f- I always had this feeling that it was something or someone that wanted to tell me something, and if I had just asked, if I had been able to just think, either think a question or say a question, I don't think I would have been able to speak. But maybe I wasn't meant to speak. Maybe I was just meant to listen. I always regretted it, because I always regret reacting that way, because I wish I had just sat and just listened. If it was a messenger of some kind, I wish I could have heard whatever it wanted to say, because it might have been something really important. I don't know. Um, it sometimes I There are times when I really went down like rabbit holes of thought, and I thought maybe that figure was actually me, in the future after I've died, and I've decided to return my soul or spirit decided to return back to that time for some reason, to tell me something. I don't know. Maybe. Again, that was one theory that I had. Um, and that's really the only theory that I thought I had, because and the only reason I say that is because I'm a person who is very obsessed with like the past. Like as much as I enjoy theorizing about the future, as fun as that is, in my heart, I'm obsessed with the past. I mean, absolutely obsessed. And when I die, if someone or something offers me the opportunity, if it turns out I'm able to go anywhere, anytime, if that's like a choice I have, I will go back and I will go back um and watch myself, at different points of my life. Absolutely would do that. And I will. If that opportunity presents itself, I will do that. I will absolutely do that. And like I said, this is not the first time I've seen shadow figures before in my home. It wasn't as dramatic, but this is not the first time. And again, that could be, it's possible. Again, there's no way to prove it, of course, but it's possible that that shadow figure is just me going back and watching myself, but somehow somehow I'm temporarily visible, or just as a shadow figure, and I suddenly become aware of it, and I have to, you kind of, I don't. Anyway, I don't know. All I can say is that that's my story. That's what happened. As best as I can remember it. That's all the detail that I can remember. And my final thoughts on it at this point in time were, I wish I hadn't panicked. I wish to God I hadn't panicked. And if it ever happens again, I'm gonna try and do my best not to panic, because again, I always had this nagging feeling like whoever or whatever it was, they had something important to tell me, but I blew it, and I panicked, and obviously, it had the whole thing had to come to an end. The whole event had to come to a very abrupt end because I couldn't keep my cool. So, um, so that's my story, and I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my story. If you if you have any thoughts on it, feel free to leave a comment in the section. If you think I'm crazy, that you can tell me I'm crazy. If you've had a similar experience, please share it with me. I'd love to hear it. Um, and if you, again, as always, if you enjoy my content, please remember to like and subscribe, and tell your friends as well, and family. And anyway, that concludes this episode. Um, I hope you're all doing well. Enjoy your evening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Good night.